GettyJacob ReesMogg claimed Britain's Brexit negotiators were cowed by the EUIn a blistering intervention. Jacob ReesMogg called for a fundamental change in tone from ministers when discussing preparations to quit the bloc. The backbencher, who heads the 60-strong European reform group of Tory MPs, also claimed Britain's Brexit negotiators were cowed by the EU.His broadside. In a speech today, followed a declaration by Chancellor Philip Hammond that Britain and Brussels will only be very modestly apart after Brexit. The clash comes after growing concern among Brexit-backing Tories that the government is failing to strike an upbeat tone about the departure process and not doing enough to stand up to Brussels' demands. Many are understood to be angry that Brexit-backing ministers were not promoted in the Prime Minister's government reshuffle earlier this month. The government must not lose sight of its ambitions for Brexit. Jacob ReesMogg speaking at Churches College in Petersfield, Hampshire. Mr. ReesMogg warned that a failure to grab the opportunities from leaving the EU could mean Brexit becomes only a damage limitation exercise. He said the British people did not vote for that. They did not vote for the management of decline. They voted for hope and opportunity. And politicians must now deliver it. If we do not, if we are timid and cowering and terrified of the future, then our children and theirs will judge us in the balance and find us wanting. GettyJacob ReesMogg accused Theresa May's government of being timid, cowering and terrified. He added, "We have our future and our destiny in our hands." Mr. ReesMogg appeared to put himself and fellow Brexit enthusiasts at loggerheads with Mr. Hammond's promise of continuing close links between the UK and EU after Brexit. The Tory backbencher said, "The government must not lose sight of its ambitions for Brexit. There is a great Brexit opportunity and some really obvious benefits that we can get that improve the condition of the people. This is currently at risk. The negotiations that are about to begin sound as if they aim to keep us in a similar system to the single market and the customs union. Keeping close alignment with the EU would effectively mean keeping the UK in the single market," Mr. ReesMogg said. "It would make the UK a rule taker like Norway, divested of even the limited influence we currently have," he said. "Conformity with EU rules will also prevent us from making meaningful trade deals with other nations. No sensible nation would negotiate with the UK for a marginal gain when we would merely be a vassal of the EU." ReesMogg warned that the EU customs union helps continental producers on the back of UK consumers. ReesMogg warned that the EU customs union helps continental producers on the back of UK consumers and claimed British industry could not compete on new technological developments such as artificial intelligence as long as the country remained shackled to the EU, and he warned that the government's approach to the Brexit negotiations had flopped so far. He said, "For too long our negotiators seem to have been cowed by the EU. Their approach seems to be that we must accept what the EU will allow us to do and build from there. This is no way to negotiate, and it is no way for this country to behave. We must negotiate from the international trading framework in which both the EU and the UK sit as equal partners, whose provisions govern our behavior. We must also not confuse the EU's opening bid with its bottom line. It is not wholly real. If we came out with our negotiating objectives, nobody in Europe would assume these were set in stone." In response to Mr. ReesMogg's broadside, a Downing Street spokesman insisted the Prime Minister had set out a positive vision of the UK post-Brexit in her keynote speeches. Sunday, July 9, 2017. Jacob ReesMogg visits the new Bagpuss pop-up shop at Whiteley's shopping centre. "Those are opportunities we are confident we will secure," the spokesman said. "But Eurosceptic Tories were understood to be dismayed by the Brexit division set out by Chancellor in a speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, last night. Mr. Hammond called for closest possible relationship between the EU and UK post-Brexit. He said, "We're taking two completely interconnected and aligned economies with high levels of trade and selectively moving them, hopefully very modestly, apart." Mr. Hammond also appeared to back minimal curbs on migration from the EU after Brexit, saying, "We want to maintain the closest possible relationship in people-to-people exchanges." and in a swipe at cabinet colleague Boris Johnson, the Chancellor rejected the Foreign Secretary's belief that Britain can have its cake and eat it in the Brexit negotiations. Mr. Hammond said, "It is not as simple as spelling out what we would like, but how we manage the process of compromise and negotiation as we explore the art of the possible."